Great, thank you very much, Rachel. So I'm just going to touch on some of these points in relation to the BVI fintech landscape, but in short, we've got a very varied fintech landscape and there's lots of innovation in the BVI. The fintech businesses here can range from token issuers, stablecoin issuers, to virtual assets exchanges, custodians, market makers, proprietary traders, and also developers providing layer 1 and layer 2 blockchain scaling solutions. So the whole range really, including an increased uptick in DeFi or decentralized finance businesses. So the BVI has also become a go-to jurisdiction for token issuers in the Americas. This is because we've got regulatory certainty here that public token issuance is out of scope of the BVI VASP Act, which I'll touch on a little bit more later. As I noted, we've got the increasing interest from DeFi businesses such as decentralized exchanges or DEXs. And I know that one of the BVI regulators' top VASP priorities at the moment is considering how best to regulate DeFi. And I'll be touching a little bit more on that later too. We are also and have already seen strong interest in the BVI as a domicile for digital assets funds and tokenization of fund interests. We worked on BlackRock's high profile and also market first BVI tokenized money market fund, which was issued last year and continues to issue new share classes. I think, could we move to the next slide, please? Thank you. So just to cover briefly the BVI's legal and regulatory framework for fintech businesses, the BVI actually was pretty early in issuing its first virtual assets guidance, which came out in 2020. And that's surprisingly early actually for regulatory guidance in the virtual asset space. And what it did and what it continues to do is clarify the scope of BVI securities legislation vis-a-vis virtual assets. So actually from fairly early on, we've had great regulatory clarity in the BVI around, for example, whether crypto futures are in the scope of the securities legislation here, whether crypto options, different types of crypto derivatives, and other types of products fall within the scope of the securities legislation. So that's been really useful in clarifying the perimeter in the BVI from early on. The VASP Act came into force here on the 1st of February 2023, together with various application and AML guidance. Generally, the BVI regime is based on the FATF virtual assets framework, and it brought with it clarity on the regulatory perimeter here, which we've now had for several years. And travel rule guidance was also published at the end of last year. There was a transitional period in place for incumbent operators that ended on the 31st of July 2023, by which time either a VASP application had to be submitted or operations needed to cease. I understand that around 60 to 70 applications were submitted around that date, so more or less in line with the end of the transitional period. As such, there was a bit of a backlog here with the regulator, which they've been diligently working through, and we did have the first VASP approvals in Q1 last year, with 22 VASPs and counting approved so far, which is ahead or on a par with other Caribbean nations. The main area of concern for the regulator here is AML compliance, as it is in the other jurisdictions on this call. The VASPs, BVI VASPs have been in scope of AML regulations and the code in the BVI since the 1st of December 2022. And this also includes those VASPs whose applications are still pending determination by the FSC. Proprietary public token issuance is not in scope of the BVI VASP Act, and neither is virtual assets lending. That's one of the reasons why token issuance has become such big business in the BVI.